I see our musical selection has upgraded to Crow movie soundtrack cover bands.
Could be worse. Could be South Park covers.
Yep, it could be worse.
All right, everybody's connected. We can get started. Thank you, everyone, for taking time to come in on the weekends and do some work on your characters. I appreciate that. It'll make everything go much faster. Okay, so we need, the very first thing we need to do is the last thing, which is we have to decide on Chronicle tenants.
What does that mean?
Chronicle 10, I will, you know what? I was going to explain it in my own haphazard way, but instead, I will just read it from the book. How's that? This thing's a tome, I'll tell you. It's gigantic, very heavy. Yeah, it is. This book is not a joke. Not
Oh
a
my
joke.
god, you actually have a book, not a PDF?
As I said, it's like
Yeah,
an actual
no.
physical book you have.
I have an actual physical. For this game, I own like 8 Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition books already.
Wow, really?
Yes, I will be adding the content in them as I read them.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, you should be excited. I bought a whole book on the Second Inquisition, so get excited.
I'm excited.
No, books are great. The weird thing is they are, real, palpable, and not PDFs.
Yes, it's a real book, not a PDF. I also have this book on PDF. If anybody wants it, I'll be happy to provide it. Okay. Chronicle tenants, the troop, that's you guys, should assemble a set of chronicle tenants based on anything from genre emulation, dramatic irony, to personal taste or real-life player concerns. Remember that tenants only impose moral sanction and degeneration on the characters when violated. So they're basically convictions, but for for all of you as a group. Chronicle tenants apply to all players, all player characters in a chronicle, even if the character doesn't hold this belief personally. The struggle between the character's individual moral code and that of their society, or in this case, their coterie, forms one of the core stories in human literature, after all. The chronicle tenets comprise a kind of ethical ground floor, so that when and if the characters do something nihilistic, so when the characters do become nihilistic serial killers, it carries a cost. Also, make sure to talk through the chosen tenets in your group so that all players understand what they mean and what kind of actions would consist of violations of these tenets. Do you guys have any ideas of what chronicle tenets you would like?
One that I picked out when I was looking through the book to suggest was, do not kill the innocent except for the cat.
The cat?
Kill the cat.
Yeah, the one that just fucking jumped off my chest. Ow.
But that's
Your
Yeah,
cat
don't
just
kill the
wants
cats.
cuddles. That's all. Your cat just wants to cuddle.
true.
Yeah.
It's very
Okay,
cute.
but seriously, ow, damn that hurt.
So cuddle the
Don't
innocent.
kill the innocent.
Cuddle them. Okay. I agree. I think that's aligned with my what's the name again? My touchstones and convictions.
Oh, good.
Define innocent.
Generally, those
Cats.
under, we'll say 12.
Well, there's
Minute-
got to be no. That's redundant.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any characters under 12 in this game.
Well,
as far as
no,
you're
I know,
concerned,
if
as far as you're
I'm
concerned,
just-
everyone is born at the age of 18 in this world.
Right. Okay.
Basically.
But best way I could say would be innocent bystander effect. It's like, oh look, there's somebody just walking down the street. Let's feed on them, kill them, and have a nice day.
And this is wrong.
Yes.
How about you define innocence, like an innocent, as someone who is unaware of the supernatural?
That would work.
So in other words, another vampire, okay, particularly if they're trying to kill you, fine. A vampire hunter, a member of the Inquisition who is trying to kill you because you're a vampire, they're not an innocent, right? But someone like a gang member, even like an inner city gang member, like a thug, they don't know. They're completely, they live in an imagined world. They're completely unaware of the true terrors.
But they live in a world of violence, and if they must die, they
Actually,
must
I
die.
wouldn't have a problem with the gang member.
All right. Well, then you need to define what innocent is. Then.
Very simple. Someone who has not done something unethical and or illegal.
Is everybody good with that?
They've not done something unethical ethical or illegal.
Or
I'm good with it.
like I said, I'm talking about, Bob walking down the streets and just minding their own business as a family of 3, and one of us just decides, hey, let's kill that guy. No.
But what if it is a serial killer?
If
Can
the-
we
Yeah,
kill
but
him?
as far, yeah, but do you know he's a serial killer?
Yeah.
If we
If
have,
you-
if we
if-
have some evidence of that, fine.
Then he's not innocent. If you
Exactly.
don't know that he's a serial killer, then he's innocent.
Right.
I think Shenson had asked me this question at one point, and the defining the innocent thing, like, would someone selling marijuana in the corner be innocent or not?
If on a corner, no, probably not, because it's legal now. Why would you be selling it on a corner if it's legal?
I don't know, but I was just that's the question I had
Yeah.
is that person innocent still because
No,
they're
if
not
they're
doing
if they're
anything
breaking
to
a-
kill anybody?
Okay, guys, we're making this much harder than it has to be. If they've committed a
agree.
crime, if they've done something unethical, if they've slept with their sister, it's that simple. It's simply not innocent. Whether that's criminal, whether it's they have knowledge of the supernatural and want to kill somebody, that's what I'm trying to get at.
But what
It's
if
like porn.
just a question, I'm not
like
trying to be difficult, but what if
Yeah.
in my world that would still be innocent, but we're gonna
Then you
go
don't
and
have
just
to
kill
kill
him? Well, I mean, the same could apply to you. Like, sure, like maybe one of us wants to go kill someone you would deem innocent. Would that be okay?
Repeat that last part again.
Like if we're walking down the street and you thought someone was innocent, but I didn't, could I go kill them then? And just because I didn't think they were innocent, even though you did?
Well, these have to apply to everyone. So that's no.
Okay.
How about legal innocence? Like an innocent person will be someone that has not committed any wrongdoing, offense, or crime, and that's it.
Well, no, because there's just because they haven't been caught. If you have knowledge of that,
No, it's not about being caught or not. We know if we know or not they've done any of those things.
Right, and like
That's
I was, yeah, like I was trying to say to kind of riff off of the Supreme Court decision of what pornography is. Rengwa said, "I don't know, I can't define it, but I know what it is when I see it." It's not something we can define as to this person's innocent, this person isn't. It's just a general understanding.
Okay, then since we are not agreeing on a basic term as innocence, I don't think this is a good thing for us. Let's not then. Let's try something
The
else.
problem is we're probably going to have that with every coterie.
Uh-huh.
There's
Well,
not
Yeah.
going to be any one that we all agree to.
Exactly, but maybe we have to.
Yeah.
I'll give
We
you
just have to find
guys-
something else.
It's 7:20. I'll give you guys until 7:30.
Oh God.
And if you cannot come up with 3 and agree on them, I will assign them to
Let's
you.
just put that one on the back burner for now. Let's come back to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just come back
I thought
to
it
it.
was just plain and simple of what innocent is.
It
They've
is
done
not.
something wrong. They deserve to die. I don't
We're
care if
vampires.
We-
We've
killing
done
a
something
vampire,
wrong.
If it's,
All right,
sticking
let's
their finger up the nose for half the
leave
day.
it, leave it. Fuck's sake. All right. Why don't we go around the room and each suggest one? So let's start with Naomi. Do you have any suggestions for Chronicle Tenants?
How about I'd like to. How about we have domain respect? We acknowledge and respect every territorial boundaries, including our own, and we are always try to, be diplomatic and don't trespass. Basically, that's it. On others' traditions.
Is everyone okay with that?
It's a little broad.
See, I think that's part and parcel of the game that we're going to have to go against other groups.
Well, we just have to respect their traditions. If they are not respecting ours, we are allowed to do whatever we want. Well, whatever it takes to, protect our domain.
Respect domains and territories, including your own, except in time of war.
There you go. Something like
Yes.
that. That's simple.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Acceptable.
Or, oh, sorry, taking turns.
Okay. Dred, do you have another one?
What about something along, I don't know what it would be called, but like remembering that we're human and we don't get all wild and crazy?
Well, that's the point of the game.
Oh, well then. Perfect. I've got it figured
I
out.
don't know that needs to be like keep your beast under control, but the thing is, that's like the point of the. I mean, yeah, you. I suppose that could be one. Keep your inner beast under control at all times.
It's written on the poster over the sink in my bathroom.
It is sort
You
of
ain't
the
gonna
point of the
repeat it
game,
daily.
but that is kind of the point of the game. But in the game, you can. We'll get into it when we start going over like game systems and stuff. But you can release the beast willingly. It's what evil vampires do a lot. And if you put this as one of your tenants, it would prohibit you from doing that, which wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean,
Next idea. In fact, burner that one too. Next idea.
no, nobody likes that one.
I
actually
like
think
that
that's
one.
quite good.
I really like that one. But
If you want to go that route, sure, we can go that route.
okay.
What was it again?
Well, I just want to make sure it's not too Twilight-ish, you know. And like, do we want to rage out sometimes? Like, do we want to just be vicious, cruel, vile creatures from time to time and slaughter something?
War, we may have to do that.
That probably
I
should be one
think
of our things.
I think Junji will punish us either way if we do that. Like if we
Of
do.
course.
I won't punish
Ooh,
you.
well,
You're blaming the wrong
No.
person.
No,
The game
the
will.
game
The
will.
game will
Yeah, the
punish
game.
you. Yes.
Our benefactor will have a few things to say about it.
But I actually think that's a fine tenant. I
Sure.
don't know why you guys are do we have any strong objections to that one?
No.
No objections. I just think that we should do that anyway. You know.
Well, you should anyway, but
Yeah. That's my feeling. I just wanted to be something more different, that we had to constrain ourselves more.
Well, that's fine.
restrain ourselves.
I mean, that's fine if that's like, you know, not the thing. It can be whatever, guys.
But that's a good option. I like it. I like it. We can have that. We still have to choose another one. So
okay. So I have respect domains and territories, including your own, except in time of war. Keep the beast under control at all times and never unleash it. And the third one, we only need one more, guys. We're doing well. Kelly, do you have a suggestion?
I keep wondering if we should come up with something dealing around food. Maybe a case of limit the hunting in your own backyard to a limited extent, or don't piss in your backyard.
Like, don't hunt the
Overhunting?
people that live in your
What do you
area.
mean? Do you mean do you mean don't piss in your backyard? Do you mean don't feed in your own domain?
That's a
No.
good point.
Because that's
the whole
kind
point
of the
domain, isn't it?
that's the whole point of the domain. Is that's
Okay.
your feeding ground. Yeah.
maybe not overhunt, because then we can attract unwanted attention, right?
Well, you're right. But then see again, that's kind of part
The
and
point.
parcel of the game, because if you are too blatant about hunting or you overhunt, it becomes a potential masquerade violation, which becomes a big problem. And if you don't fix it, someone else will fix it, and you don't want someone else to fix it. So I don't know that necessarily needs to be a tenant, because you guys are going to
No.
do that anyway if you're
Yeah,
smart.
that's totally
I mean, if you play not smart, that'll correct itself too.
By correct itself, you mean get us killed?
Yeah, that's kind of what I
Yeah.
mean. That's the implication. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
We could always show strength before all who would question us.
It's like, don't put up with shit, basically.
We're doing our thing. Somebody approaches and starts to say, "Hey, I don't agree with what you're doing."
So as
Get
someone
something down.
who's as a character who's smart, Derek, and I do see your characters being smart, your character would know that, especially for a vampire, there are times when you're going to get shit from someone who's more powerful than you.
Good point.
And the smart play is to eat shit and then either eat shit and survive, or because there's a philosophy that outliving someone is the best revenge, or eat shit and then get revenge later. But standing up to anyone who would give you guff
Yep.
is a great way to get yourself killed in a hurry. One thing vampires like to do, what's that? Vampires they're big on showing how big their dicks are all the time. especially amongst younger vampires. And you guys are young vampires, so especially amongst the Camarilla, which we'll get into when we get into the lore section. Well, we have 2. We're out of time.
An enemy of one is an enemy of all.
I like this.
Yeah,
Enemy
good
of
with that.
one in the coterie. Enemy of one is an enemy of all.
I like that.
All right, I think that's great. Yeah. So within the coterie,
Sounds very musketeerian.
Yeah.
It is very
like
much
it.
so.
I actually really like that one.
Mm.
All right, so here are the chronicle tenets. Respect domains and territories, including your own, except in time of war. Keep the beast under control at all times and never unleash it. Within the coterie, an enemy of one is an enemy of all. I made that's in the notes section. I made it a public note so you guys can check it out whenever you want to remind yourselves. Smells like Jeremy's burning something.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Thank you, boss.
Oh, we don't actually have to add it now, but I actually did find something.
What, a chronicle tenant?
No.
Oh, for innocent. I
Yeah.
see. Do you want to add that chronicle tenant? You already have 3.
Yeah, we don't have to. It was just because when you said we had 2, and then we just flipped in that third one, I was like, okay.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit, guys, and let's talk about vampires or kindred. Vampires do not call themselves vampires, with one exception, which I'll tell you about in a second. Vampires call themselves kindred. And first of all, they don't differentiate between humans and kindred either. To a kindred, they are human. They're just a more evolved, a stronger, a faster, a better human than mortals. Kindred refer to mortals as either mortals or kine. Would you guys like me to create as a note, like a big lexicon of all these terms?
Yes,
It might be
please.
helpful.
That would
Okay.
be
Yes.
very helpful.
All right, I can do that before the next session. Obviously, I'm not going to do it right now. So let's talk about kindred a little bit. Where do kindred come from? Who was the very first vampire? Well, according to vampire myth and vampire religion, and yes, vampires do have religion, there's 2 answers. There's one of 2 answers to that. The first answer is Cain from the Bible, as in Cain and Abel, as in the first son of Adam and Eve. The legend goes that when Cain killed Abel, God cursed him to walk the earth forever, thus creating Cain as the first vampire. There is another myth that is maybe slightly less widely believed, that Lilith, who is the first wife of Adam, as in Adam and Eve, was in fact the first vampire. And she wouldn't obey Adam, and God cursed her, and the way he did that was he made her into a vampire. Your generation, you'll notice you're all 13th generation. That is the number of generations removed from Cain or Lilith that you are. That's what that generation refers to. Old vampires tend to believe the Cain and or Lilith myth. Younger vampires kind of don't. They think it's laughable for the most part. Largely because it part of the foundation of these myths is that the Bible is true, which is controversial, at least. But in any case, the first vampire, whoever the first vampire was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, and is now unknown, even though a lot of people say it's Cain or Lilith. For a long time through history, particularly in the BC era, vampires existed openly. They didn't hide their vampiric nature because they're pretty godlike compared to humans. And they would rule over cities and basically treat human like their cattle and so on and so forth. And they did this for thousands of years. Then in the 15th century, the Roman Catholic Church started a thing you may have heard of called the Inquisition. And the Inquisition, what's that?
The Inquisition, what a show.
The Inquisition was very, very good at killing vampires. And they were so successful at killing vampires that the all the vampires got together and had a big meeting in Paris and said, okay, we have to do something because the humans are going to kill us. So they came up with, first of all, they came up with a gubernatorial body called the Camarilla, or Camarilla, if you want to be fancy. And they came up with a bunch of rules. Rule number one, of course, being the Masquerade. Do not reveal your nature as a vampire to someone who is not a vampire. That's basically how that goes. Don't let the world know vampires exist, is the short form. There are other rules, but the other rules kind of don't concern you as anarchs. Another rule that the Camarilla came up with is the oldest vampires are in charge, and anyone younger than them has to do what they say. In other words, you obey the people who are the vampires who are older than you. And almost immediately, a group of vampires raised their hands and went, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Just because you say it, we're really not okay with that. We're not your slaves. And the anarchs were born. The anarchs were cool with the Masquerade, self-preservation and all that. What they were not okay with was letting other people rule their lives and control their destinies. Part of the Anarch faction, who are the hardcore religious nuts of the vampires, remember I said vampires are religious, broke off from the Anarchs and said, we're going to make our own faction and we're going to have blackjack and hookers. And they left. And those guys are called the Sabbat. The Sabbat really have nothing. They went 180 degrees from the Camarilla. They believe, first of all, they're very strongly, they're Cainites. That's what their religion is called. They believe that Cain exists, Cain is their Jesus, and he's going to come back someday. So we have to get the world ready for when Cain comes back. That is our job as vampires. They also believe that vampires are better than humans. Not just stronger, not just faster, not just immortal, but better, and should rule over humanity by right. Just the fact that we're better as vampires gives us the right to rule over humanity. They are vampire supremacists. For a very long time, the Camarilla and the Sabbat were at war with each other because they have very different. The Camarilla, like some of the oldest members of the Camarilla, might believe in Cain. But for the most part, vampires in the Camarilla didn't really believe the Cain myths. And the prophecies, there's all kinds of prophecies and other stuff that go along with it. But so for a long time, the Sabbat and the Camarilla were at war. The Camarilla controlling certain cities and certain territories, the Sabbat controlling other cities and other territories. And the anarchs, who weren't really a movement, it's more of a personal philosophy being an anarch, were just kind of like caught in the middle, like, okay. Now, fast forward to 1944, a group of anarchs living in Southern California decided, fuck the Camarilla, we're taking over. And they successfully overthrew the prince, which is the Camarilla ruler of a city, is called a prince. They overthrew the prince and took over Los Angeles. And then that movement slowly spread out until basically all of Southern California is controlled by anarch. And it's become known as the Anarch Free State. Now, fast forward again a little bit, and we get to the 2000s, the early 2000s, and the War on Terror. What happened is someone let the Catholic Church know that vampires are real. So the Catholic Church started a second inquisition. The Catholic Church decided to involve intelligence agencies like the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, MI5, MI6, Mossad, various other religious organizations. The Second Inquisition was born. And if the First Inquisition was very successful at killing vampires, the Second Inquisition was dead good at killing vampires. The Second Inquisition has basically wiped out the Sabbat because the Sabbat don't care about the Masquerade. They were just vampire. Blah, we're vampires. Look at me. I have my face on backwards and I have bat wings. The Second Inquisition has wiped them out.
They sound fun.
They
The
do.
Sabbat? Well,
Yeah.
Sorry, but you're probably not going to meet one. Because the
Not yet.
Sabbat at this point, the Sabbat control nothing. They have been really kicked off the map. They have either fled to the Middle East, where they believe that Cain and all the super old vampires called antediluvians are, and they're trying to wake them up. So a lot of Sabbat just fled to the Middle East or North Africa. Or they defected to the Camarilla, a lot of Sabbat have just went, you know what? Well, we're in the Camarilla now. It's better than being dead. So they defected. And those Sabbat that remain loyal but are still in the West have gone deep underground. They are like underground, and they're in little cells too. If you do come across the Sabbat, it'll be a little cell like your coterie. It's not going to be a big mass group of Sabbat like in the old bad times. The Second Inquisition basically wiped out the Sabbat, and everyone in the Camarilla got really excited. This is great for them. And then the Second Inquisition turned and started hunting the Camarilla, being really, really successful. For example, the Second Inquisition mounted an attack against the Tremere head chantry in Vienna. This is the center of the Tremere clan's operations within the Camarilla. They killed, the Second Inquisition successfully killed a whole bunch of the Tremere elders, like a lot of the Tremere elders, and burned the chantry down. This has devastated the Tremere. The Tremere are kind of a broken clan within the Camarilla, and outside of the Camarilla too. The Tremere used to be a very hierarchical, very strict pyramid where the youngest were at the bottom and the oldest was at the top, and there was very strict control, and they were very particular about who they embraced, and everybody had to be within that pyramid. But since the attack on the chantry in Vienna, the pyramid's broken. And also, the chantry in Vienna just happened to be where the Tremere stored all their magical knowledge. So a lot of their magical knowledge is gone. And the Tremere are desperately trying to get it back. They're trying to find old, like rediscover these things because they've been lost. And all their most talented wizards, because the Tremere are the wizard vampires, are gone. They've been killed. It's really bad news for the Tremere. So after that happened, the Camarilla had a big meeting in Paris, like they do, and the elders of the Camarilla admitted, yeah, we kind of started the Second Inquisition. We let the Catholic Church know that vampires exist because we wanted them to hunt down the Sabbat, which they did. When word spread that the Camarilla started the Second Inquisition, it kicked off a wave of anarch revolts. Berlin is now an anarch city. London is now an anarch city. And Copenhagen is now an anarch city. There are numerous anarch cities across the United States too, not just within Southern California. The Camarilla are having a very bad time. But it's good. It's kind of good times for the anarchs, really, because there are more of us than ever, or more of you, I should say. However, the Second Inquisition is out there, so preserving the Masquerade is more important than it has ever been, particularly in the internet age. So, for example, within the Camarilla, you are not allowed to use a smartphone. No Camarilla vampire owns a smartphone because they're afraid, or a cell phone, because they're afraid that the Second Inquisition will use it to find them and track them. Preserving the Masquerade is way more important than it has ever been. Where am I? I think that brings us up to the current day. You guys live in Southern California in the anarch-free states. Southern California so San Francisco is currently held by the Camarilla, but everything south of San Francisco right down to Mexico is anarch territory. Let's talk a little. Does anyone have any questions about the politics or the war of the world?
Not yet. Kind of liking how it's going though. The cell phone thing is a fun one.
You guys, of course, have cell phones.
Of course.
We do. I'm a YouTuber. Of course I have a cell phone.
Yes, of course.
Of course, she's a YouTuber.
Digital influencer, actually.
Let us talk about. Yeah, you could be on Instagram if you're an influencer. You're not necessarily a YouTuber.
Of course.
Let's talk a little bit about vampire physiology. So as vampires, you guys are undead. You are essentially walking corpses. Those of you who do not have, so Derek, you do not have a beard or facial hair of any kind. I assume that when you were embraced, which is the word for making someone a vampire, when you were embraced, you were clean shaven that day. You will never, ever grow a beard. Your body is essentially frozen with you, with that haircut, with hair of that, well, not that haircut, but that hair of that length and no facial hair. James, you have a beard. If you wanted to be clean shaven, you would have to, every evening when you wake up, you would have to shave off your entire beard. And then at dawn the next day, when you went back to sleep, your hair would all grow back. And when you would wake up the next evening, you would have a full beard again. If you cut your hair or it gets burned off or something in a fire, it will appear again as it was before you got burned or you cut it at sundown the next day. Vampires are kind of frozen in time when they're embraced. They kind of don't change. Not just physically, but sort of mentally and emotionally too. It's why a lot of very old vampires have there's one important thing I forgot to mention. I'll go back to it in a second. A lot of very old vampires have trouble adjusting to modern life because they're it's sometimes it's hard for them to keep up with technology, sometimes it's not, but more often they have an archaic mindset, an archaic value that haven't changed over time.
I have a question. What happens if we cut our hair and leave it out the next day when we wake up? Does it vanish? Does it die?
What do you mean
wither?
leave it out? Oh, the actual hair?
Yeah,
Like if you cut your hair and put it in a plastic baggie,
exactly.
it would still be in the plastic bag.
Also, can make a lot of money selling my hair.
I mean, if you want to, sure. Yeah,
Although it would disappear as soon as it hits sunlight.
that's true.
Oh no!
That's true. It would catch on fire if you
Oh,
took
that
it
would be
into the sun.
mean.
Yeah,
It's a night wig.
a night wig.
A night wig.
Okay, so one other lore detail I forgot to mention is that a lot of the oldest vampires who are around or were around have been disappearing. They've been receiving some kind of summons or something like that, and all going either to North Africa or the Middle East. So in North America, there's really no vampires below 10th generation. The same thing in Europe, same thing across the world.
Huh.
This is all very recently, like within the last 20 years that this has been happening. So basically, you guys will very likely not meet any vampire that is below 10th generation. A 10th generation vampire will be probably the oldest vampire that you guys will meet.
Do we know why or what happens?
Nope.
Okay. What about our daddy? How old is he? What generation is he from?
What about our daddy?
Do you mean
Armala.
do you
Yeah.
mean Isaac Abrams?
Yeah.
You don't know. You can ask him. It would be considered. Do you have any points in etiquette?
Yes, I do. Well, have a lot of points actually.
It would probably be considered a breach of etiquette to ask him how old he is, and especially what generation he is. That's like privileged information that vampires guard jealously. Okay, so vampire physiology. You are corpses. As such, your bodies do not produce heat. Your bodies are cold, like a corpse. You don't sweat. Now, the thing is that the way that this is a bit of an editorial, but the way that vampires are described in this game doesn't actually make a lot of sense to me anyway. So I'm going to deviate very slightly from the way that the game says that vampires are. And I'm the game master and I can do that. And my word is law, so there. For example, according to the book, vampires do not produce any bodily fluids apart from blood, but that doesn't actually make sense. Human bodies are made up of we're very wet, our bodies. We have a lot of bodily fluid, except saliva, actually, now that I come to think of it. Vampires do have saliva in Vampire the Masquerade. But anyway,
Weird.
but that doesn't really make sense. For example, eye moisture. And I'm not talking about tears. I'm just talking about the moisture, the layer of moisture that is on your eyes right now. Anyone who has had dry eye will know is very aware of eye moisture, right? Your eyes need a layer of moisture on them to function. If your eyes were completely dry, your corneas would start getting scratched, and eventually your corneas would just be white, like a zombie, right? So vampires in my version of this game, vampires have eye moisture, for example. Otherwise, they'd be covered in a layer of blood, and you'd all have red eyes, and everybody would know you're a vampire just by looking at you, and the game wouldn't be possible. So vampires have eye moisture. You cannot produce tears, however. If a vampire cries because they're emotionally upset or in pain, I suppose, they cry blood. Also because that's a pretty evocative image, crying. Now let's talk about, can vampires have sex? The answer is maybe. That's the short. It depends. That's the other. The longer answer is vampires. So just within literature, the fact that one of vampires is a evocative and enduring horror monster, I think, is because there's a sexual component to them. Sexy vampires are a trope after all. So the way that the game handles that is that basically vampires can and do have sex. They can't produce children, but they can and do have sex when they're young. And the older a vampire gets, the less and less interest that kind of very mortal pursuit has to a vampire. Until somewhere in their second century, they just kind of lose interest. Now, mechanically, that's not quite the case. That would be like the in-universe observation of a game mechanic, if that makes sense. Mechanically, the way it works is whether or not you can have sex is actually determined by your humanity. I'm actually going to adjust this somewhat because I think the game is a little too strict about it. But basically, if you have humanity of 6 or higher, you can have sex. If you have humanity below 6, then you can kind of fake it, although the game is not specific as to what exactly that means, but you kind of have to sort of fake it. And once your humanity gets too low, it's impossible for you to even act as though you're interested in sex. You kind of become so inhuman that you're, that kind of thing is just not even with entering your mind, and it becomes a kind of like a foreign thing to you. There is one exception to what I just said, which is Toreadors. Toreador vampires are the quote unquote sexy vampires of all the clans. Why is that funny?
I've always just got to giggle over the Toreadors. Sorry, man. It's just the way it is.
One of their nicknames is perverts. They don't call themselves that. Other vampires call them that.
So that was kind of a weird thing.
Like non-Toreadors call Toreadors perverts. Toreadors are very interested in sex, more so than other vampires. So a Toreador has to abide by the humanity level -1. So a Toreador with humanity 5 could still engage in actual sexual activity. So as undead vampires, unchanging vampires, you are both at the same time very, very, very resistant to damage, almost indestructible, really, and at the same time extremely fragile. If like something like a fist or a baseball bat or a club or a sword or a shotgun blast, it will damage your physical body a bit, but your internal organs are all vestigial anyway, so it's not going to stop you. You can shrug off a shotgun blast quite easily. You get hit by a truck and shrug it off. What? Yes? Do we have a question? Andrea?
Oh, sorry. My roommate was handing me food.
Oh, okay. We'll say thank you and we'll get back. That said, vampires also have weaknesses. If you get stabbed through the heart with a sharpened wooden stake or another implement, it won't kill you, but it will paralyze you. You'll be completely aware of everything that's going on, but you'll be unable to move or act in any way. If sunlight and fire are your two biggest adversaries, sunlight and fire will kill you in a hurry. You're not going to be rushing into burning buildings to save babies. You're just not going to do it. Also, certain supernatural attacks can also kill you. kill you. Now, mechanically, what this means is that there are two kinds of damage. There's superficial damage and there's aggravated damage. Superficial damage is from things like baseball bats, punches, shotguns, or getting hit by a truck. If you take all of your health pool worth of superficial damage, you don't die. You go into a state that is called torpor. It's basically a regenerative state. You kind of fall unconscious. And now the thing is, in order to wake up from torpor, someone needs to feed you blood that is of a lower generation than you are. So if one of you guys goes into torpor, what your friends have to do is, first of all, grab you and put you in a safe place where there's no sun, and then go find a vampire who's 12th generation or lower and say, please, sir, may we have some of your blood, sir? And then feed it to you, and then you'll wake up from torpor. But otherwise, you'll be fine. If you lose all of your health damage in aggravated damage from sunlight or fire or supernatural attacks, you go to what is called the final death. Your body will disintegrate or age rapidly, depending on the source of the harm, and it will be time to make a new character. Okay, so does everybody have that?
Got it.
So be cocky.
Yeah.
So be cocky until you are faced with fire, sunlight, or supernatural attacks, in which case it's time to GTFO.
Okay, one question. When you
Yes.
say someone needs to feed us from the blood of someone of a lower generation than us, does that mean that we can take a human and get some blood too?
You can take a what?
Another human?
No.
No, just
No,
another
humans-
kindred.
Humans don't have generations from Cain. It has to be the blood of a vampire who is closer to Cain than you are, or closer to the source of vampirism, whatever it is.
Oh, lower. Okay.
So lower generation, yes.
Okay.
You are 13th generation, so if you
So
were to go
12
into
or
torpor, it would have to be 12, 11, 10, etc., etc.
A full night's rest does not do anything for us, or does it?
You mean as in terms of healing?
Yes.
It does, but not if you're in torpor. If you're in torpor, the only thing, and when I say the only thing, I mean the only thing, is to drink the blood of a vampire who is of an older generation than you. That's it. There's no other way to get out of torpor. By the way, it is kind of normal for vampires to trade each other blood. That is a thing that vampires do. It's kind of a big deal to ask for somebody's blood, as you can imagine, but it is a thing that is done. So it wouldn't be crazy if you went to a vampire that you knew was older than you guys and said, "Hey, listen, our friend's in torpor. Can we have a pint to get them out?" All right.
Good.
You guys want to get into some mechanics?
Quick question on that same point that you were just bringing up there. Has it been known for an older vampire to actually go, "Hey, you did a really fucking good job for me. Here, have a pint of my blood"?
Not in a roundabout way, yes, but not exactly. Certainly the thing that you just said, the phrases that you just used were never uttered.
Yeah, exactly.
An older vampire, what would an older vampire say is, "You did a great job for me. I owe you a boon," which is a favor to be called in later. And the inverse of that is true. If you go to an older vampire, let's say someone named Isaac Abrams, and said, "Hey boss, we really need your help with this thing. We need you to intervene," and it wasn't something that directly, related to him or endangered him, he might say, "Okay, fine, I'll help you, but you owe me a special boon for this." It's a favor to be called in later. So yes, and boons, very often a boon will take the shape of, "Hey, can I have a pint of your blood?"
Another question.
Yes.
Blood do gets old, right? We cannot stock it for later in the fridge or freeze it.
No, you can.
We can, and
You can. You can.
if
You can.
we maybe find some raw Camarilla vampire, and then we dry him from blood. Okay.
In fact, one member of your party might be especially equipped to store and preserve your blood. It might not have the knowledge necessary to do that.
Or we could just go to a blood bank, also known as Vampire 7-Eleven.
Well, yeah, but she's talking about vampire blood, not human blood.
I know.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys want to get into mechanics?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys don't already have, open your character sheet so that you're, in other words, so you're looking at your character sheet. Wow, this music is very dramatic.
It is.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
turn down the music
intense.
just a little
Get
bit.
it going.
Just a little bit here. Okay, good. All right. Everybody's looking at their character sheets.
Yes.
All right, so the base mechanic, this is gonna bother some of you, but that's the game, so what can we do? The base mechanic is any attempt to do anything is typically rolled in. Actually, I'm not even gonna start there. Let's roll back. Let's go back. Let's rewind. All right, everybody look at your character sheet. Look up on the main page, see where your portrait is, and next to your portrait is your name. And next to your name are a bunch of symbols that look like dice, and one of them has a little skull with teeth on it. Does everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Those are hunger dice. You are all at 1 hunger. The more hunger dice you have, the hungrier for blood you are. Okay? The hungrier you are, the more likely it is that your beast will take control and you will do something that you will regret. It is always best to stay at 1 hunger. 1 hunger is like background noise. You could go for a nip, you know? It's background noise. You can push it away, you can focus on other things. It's not a bother to you. The only way to get to 0 hunger, it is possible to get to 0 hunger, but the only way to do that is to completely drain a human dry, thus killing them. That is the only way. It doesn't matter how much blood. You can drink all the blood from blood bags and you could drain a dozen humans halfway. You will never get to 0 hunger. You have to kill someone to get to 0 hunger. So keep that in mind, because it might seem a little strange the way that I'm going through these mechanics, but they all kind of build off each other. That's why I'm doing it in the way I'm doing it. So you'll see. I'm just sort of anticipating that question. We'll come back to hunger dice in a minute, but let's do some rolls. I want to show you the basic roll mechanics. So whenever Dread,
Yeah.
Speaking of your PI friend, I actually was going to ask if we could change his name.
Of course.
I would like to change. Sorry, guys. I apologize to everyone who's not Dread, because it doesn't concern any of you except for him. I was wondering if we could change it, and I'll send you the name.
Okay.
If we could change it to this. Let's change it to
Thomas Magnum.
Nope. Nice try, but no. To that.
Got it.
All right, and sorry everyone, sorry. Now, once you do that, Dread, I need you to go back to the main page of your character. All right,
Okay.
so we're gonna do some rolls. So the basic mechanic of this, basically all of your rolls, whenever you try to do something, you will be rolling a dice pool. A pool made up of many dice. Typically, dice pools are made up of either 2 stats or, more common, 1 stat and 1 skill pool. Okay, so let's try this out, and I'm going to show you how this works in Fantasy Ground. So what we're going to do is I want everyone to roll manipulation plus subterfuge. So to do that, click on your character sheet, click manipulation, and it'll highlight it.
Oh.
And then go down to subterfuge and click the die, the little die symbol that's just to the left of subterfuge. Okay. Now, if you look at the chat window, it'll show you James Miller did a subterfuge test. He got two successes. Derek Odell got 4 successes. I'm gonna go into what all these different symbols mean in a second. Naomi Okada. Is it Okada?
Okada.
Naomi Okada got 4 successes, and Victoria, I'm afraid, got 0 successes. Sorry, Victoria. Okay, so a few things. First of all, notice how one of your dice is a different color than the rest of your dice. Does
Yeah.
everyone see that?
The red one.
The red
Yes,
one.
one of those things is not like the other.
Correct. That is your hunger dice. As you grow in hunger, your hunger dice will replace your regular dice in tests. There are certain things that can happen only on hunger dice. So the more hunger dice you have in your dice pool, the hungrier you are, the more likely those bad things are to happen.
Oh.
Yes, being hungry is not good. Symbols. So the dots, if you look in the chat window, the dots are misses. They are not successes. So a success is on a die roll. It's always a D10 roll. And anything of 6 or higher is a success. So what I just rolled a 4. That's a failure. Okay. The dots are failures. The ankhs, the little ankhs you see, are successes. If you see an ankh with 2 little symbols under it, either teeth or little stars, that is a 10. If you roll 2 10s, that is a critical. Criticals are worth not 2 successes, but 4 successes. Even if you roll now, if you roll on, okay, so I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here. Let me back up a little bit. So that is dice pools. Now, with a very few exceptions. Now, sometimes things like disciplines and certain other things you're trying to do, like your hunting behavior, will have very specific roles you have to do. In other words, this attribute plus this skill for your dice. But for the most part, the roles are number 1, context dependent, right? And number 2, up to me to decide what the appropriate role is. I'll give you an example of context dependency. Does anyone here have firearms? Anyone have any dots in firearms?
I do.
And I do as well.
All right, so Andrea and James, what I would like you to do is you guys are going to have a draw. So an Old West draw, you guys are facing off against each other. You both know that each of you has a gun on your person, and you're both reaching for your pistols. Who can draw and shoot first? So I want you both to roll dexterity plus firearms. Oh, it's a tie. You both draw at the same time and shoot. Unfortunately, you both miss because you only got 1 success. Now, a different context would be, let's say you're in the middle of a firefight. You're behind cover. You're taking cover behind a dumpster, and there are gangbangers at the end of the alley that you're in, and they're just blasting. They're just shooting, bang, 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 down the alley.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
I rolled leadership, not firearm.
Oh, you did roll. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But don't do that.
Don't do that.
The die is to the left of the skill,
Well,
not to the right. You'll get used to it. I'm not super concerned about it right now. So you're in an alley hiding behind a dumpster, and there are bullets flying everywhere. You want to step out from behind the dumpster and shoot. Instead of dexterity plus firearms, what I'm going to have you roll is composure plus firearms, because you have to keep your composure and step out into where the bullets are flying. You have to step out of cover to shoot. There you go. You got it. So that's an example of how 2 different actions could have 2 different dice rolls. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Here's how we are going to do this because of the flexible nature of this. And to be fair, this is mostly for Olini and Andrea, but it's for everybody too. First of all, it's very, very important, guys, that you don't just roll. If you just roll a die, I'm going to say to you, what the heck are you rolling for? What was that for? What are you doing? And then look at you. Unfortunately, we're not on camera, but I would look at you if we were around the table. What you need to do is verbally say what your character wants to do, okay? That's how this has to work. I want to step out from behind the dumpster and shoot. And then I will tell you what dice to roll, what dice pool to put together. That's how this has to work. So you can't roll. I know everybody loves to press the buttons, but you can't be rolling before you tell me what to do. It just it's not only is it not going to work, but I might, if it becomes a habit, I'm going to have to use negative reinforcement to stop you doing that. And you don't want to do that. So don't do that. Once you tell me what it is you want to do, and I tell you, make a, intelligence plus investigation roll, for example, or wits plus investigation, or whatever the die roll is. If you disagree with me and want to put together a different dice pool to do it, what you can do is say, how about X plus Y, whatever the combination is that you think you should be rolling. And I will either say yes, no, or explain to me how that works, how that is relevant. If I say yes, that means that I've given you permission to do it your way and you can roll the dice. If I say no, that means the discussion is over and you need to roll what I asked you to roll. And if I say explain that to me, then that is an offer of you to explain to me your thinking in putting together this dice pool. If you explain to me what you think, I will either say, okay, that sounds good, go ahead, and then you can roll that dice pool that you propose. And if I say, no, that doesn't make any sense, the discussion is over and I need you to roll the dice that I told you to roll. Does everybody have that?
Yep.
Got it.
Got it.
Good. You got that, Alini?
I was waiting for Alini to pipe up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing was
Yeah.
muted.
Yeah.
Well, I always say what I'm going to do. You're the one that never agrees.
I think the emphasis is on the don't argue with him part.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
All right. So we talked about hunger dice in pool. So here's what I want everyone to do. You guys are investigating a crime scene. Ooh. Everyone give me either intelligence plus investigation rolls, or you can give me wits plus investigation rolls. And sometimes I'll give you a choice as to what to roll. But everybody please roll for me either intelligence plus investigation or wits plus investigation. Okay, James was looking at his belly button. Oh, and by the way, there are different difficulties, which means you have to get a certain number of successes to do it. You don't really see until after you've rolled what the difficulty was. I control the difficulty of the rolls. Right now I have everything set to 3. So you'll notice on the roll, it says difficulty moderate 3. That's because I have it set to moderate. All right, you guys aren't doing what I want you to do. Everybody give me another wits plus or intelligence plus investigation or wits plus investigation, please. Oh, I have a better idea if this doesn't work. Oh, we'll try one more thing. And if not, I'll just, because I wanted the visual, but everybody give me a roll on your highest attribute, whatever your highest attribute is, and plus your highest skill. So you're rolling
What about our specialties? How do we apply that?
Oh, I'll deal with that after.
Damn.
Just do a straight roll. Wow, Victoria, that was impressively bad. You still got 3 successes though, so you still succeeded in whatever it was you were trying to do. All right, it is not happening for me. So what I'm going to do is there's a couple of things. If you know how we went over your hunger dice taking over your dice pools. If you roll a 1 on your hunger die, the symbol that will come up will be the skull, the fang skull, which is the hunger die symbol. If you roll one of those on your hunger die and get 0 successes, that is called a bestial failure. Bestial failures it's kind of like a critical failure in this game, except instead of stepping on a rake and hitting yourself in the face, what it is that you've either failed so badly that the bestial part of you is actually angry or shamed that you failed so bad, or something else that roused the beast within you. When you get a bestial failure, you will have to act out whatever your clan compulsion is. Each of you have different clan compulsions for your clan. And that's when a bestial failure is when your clan compulsion comes out. In other words, that's when the game gets fun for me. I already explained critical successes. That's when you roll 2 or more 10s. And each pair of 10s that you roll adds +4 successes, not +2. Okay, now, when you roll a critical and one of the 10s is on a hunger die, that's called a messy critical. Now, on a messy critical, you succeed what you're trying to do, but there's a complication. So it's not a complete success. It's a partial success. When you're rolling Awini, when you're rolling your specialization, so what is the specialization that you have?
For example, for subterfuge, I wanted to do either seduction or innocence.
Okay, so roll manipulation plus seduction using your seduction specialty. Now, to add the specialty die, which is a +1 die, what you have to do is go down to the box that says modifier under the dice box and click it so that it says adjusting,
Mhm.
and then press 1, and that will add 1 die to your dice.
Okay.
So go ahead and do that and then roll. Boom. There you go. And that's how you do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, willpower. You guys have a stat called willpower. So let's quickly go over health. Your health boxes, you'll notice you have 2 sets of plus and minuses. Okay. There's a light one, dark one. The brighter one, the darker one, if you press the plus sign, it'll fill in a dot. Do you see that?
Sorry, where?
Your health.
Okay, the red one, right?
The red one, yes.
Okay.
All right. So a block, if you press the darker or the brighter plus sign, it'll fill in the dot. That is superficial damage. Okay. If you fill this up with superficial damage, you'll go into torpor. If you press the more faded plus sign, it'll fill up the block with like half a slash. That is aggravated damage. It is possible to have both aggravated damage and superficial damage. Now remember, if your health bar fills up with aggravated damage, you're dead. You're dead. It's time to make a new character dead. It is possible to take so much superficial damage that you die. If you are filled up with superficial damage and then keep taking superficial damage, even after you've gone into torpor, any extra damage you will take will be aggravated damage. And it basically represents your body kind of coming apart. And eventually your head will be decapitated and your vampire will be dead. That's another way to kill vampires, by the way, is to decapitate them. It's really hard to do when they're moving around though, so including with you. It's not generally something you need to worry about unless some mortal stakes you, in which case you're extremely vulnerable. Okay, so there's humanity, your humanity. If you press the little plus sign under your humanity, you'll see that it creates a little slash thing and a minus sign. The little slash box represents a stain on your humanity. If you violate one of your convictions or a chronicle tenant or one of your touchstones is harmed or otherwise killed, you will receive a stain. At the end of the night, when you go to bed, you will make a humanity check. It's called a remorse check. If you pass, all you need to do is get 1 success. If you pass, that means your vampire is remorseful and the stain goes away. You feel bad about what you did. If you fail the remorse roll, that means your vampire, in fact, does not care about what they did. And your stain goes away and you lose 1 point of humanity. If your humanity ever goes to 0, your vampire will become a mindless, bloodthirsty beast. And I will take your character away and you'll make a new one. Willpower. Notice how there's a big red button under willpower that says reroll.
Yes.
You can spend willpower to reroll up to 3 dice in a dice. You cannot re-roll your beast, your hunger dice though.
Mm-hmm.
So the game will automatically choose dice that are not your hunger dice when you choose to re-roll.
How does that work? It also have the yellow and the red thingies.
Well, you can take willpower damage too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You could take normal willpower damage and aggravated willpower damage. Those are fairly unique situations.
Oh, nice.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh,
You
look
got
at
a
that.
bestial
fail. No, I'm excited for that, but I just hope it happens to all you guys, not like me.
Same.
Well, there are, in fact, times when a bestial failure, because it's kind of a story thing too, there are situations when a bestial failure wouldn't make sense on the context. Hope that your bestial failures happen during those times. Because if it happens during those times, I will just say it doesn't make sense for your clan compulsion to surface now. So
It will be very awkward for me.
It'll just be a normal, well, your clan compulsion,
It will be awkward.
it's just beauty. It's just you get sort of hypnotized by something you think
Obsessed.
is beautiful. Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's go to your actions tab. Okay. So notice there's blood potency, of which you all have 1. Blood resonance, you guys don't have blood resonance right now. Bane severity is 2, that's your clan bane. Feeding penalties, I don't think any of you have feeding penalties. Now, there's a bunch of buttons. There's rouse check, frenzy check, men check, blood surge, power bonus. Okay, so rouse check. Rouse check is, aside from like skill checks, rouse checks are the most common check you guys are going to do. To use basically any vampire, like supernatural vampire power, takes a rouse check. You can, let's run down some of the powers that you guys have. You guys can do something called the Blush of Life. The Blush of Life, you as vampires, you control the blood that's in your bodies. You have control of it. And the Blush of Life is when you bring the blood to the surface, and it'll give your skin a little rosy hue, a little more like living hue. You'll produce warmth. Your skin will be warm, and you'll more easily pass as a human. You can also have sex. If you don't use Blush of Life, you cannot have sex, because your parts don't work. So you need to use Blush of Life if you're going to seduce someone. In fact, anytime, unless you're doing like running into the convenience store real quick to buy something, to buy a lighter or something, you basically want to use Blush of Life whenever you're interacting with humans in any case, because it'll make you look more human. Blush of Life requires a rouse check. You can use a power called Blood Surge. Blood Surge gives you bonus dice to your checks because you're a vampire. You're basically making the blood you have stored within your own body. You're using that blood to make yourself more powerful. The bonus that you get for doing a Blood Surge is dependent on your blood potency, which you guys have blood potency of 1. Your blood potency is based on your generation. So older vampires, when they use Blood Surge, they'll get even bigger bonuses than you will. You guys will get +2 dice when you use a Blood Surge. To use a Blood Surge, you use a rouse check. A mending check is to heal from damage. That's also a rouse check. And all discipline powers except for level 1 powers. The level 1 powers, the 1-dot powers, do not require a rouse check. But using any of your disciplines above level 1 requires a rouse check to use them. James, why do you have 5 dots in obfuscate?
I don't know.
That is not correct.
I don't know why those are there.
That is not correct.
Because he's the 10th generation.
No, that should be 1, not 5.
By the way, how do we level up? Or we don't.
You get it?
In that
You
sense.
absolutely level up. You get XP and you spend XP to
But
raise
for
your
powers,
but
right?
for what? For anything you want to spend it on.
For Blood Surge, for example, we are what we are.
Okay.
We're never going to be as strong
well,
as.
well, so for you asked 2 different questions. They might
Yeah.
be the same in your mind, but they're 2 different questions.
Mhm.
So you guys get XP. This is so off topic right now. We haven't even gotten through the blood stuff yet. Alini.
Level up is important.
You get XP and you can spend your XP. You can raise your attributes. You can raise your skills. You can raise your powers, your disciplines, and get new disciplines. However, your generation, you are basically stuck at 13th generation.
Mhm.
The only way you can get to be a higher generation and therefore higher blood potency
Mhm.
is to hunt and kill and drain completely dry, therefore killing them, a higher level generation vampire than you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that is called diablere. It is
Diablere.
considered cannibalism. And if other vampires know you are a diablerist, they will try to kill you.
Interesting.
That is like one of the great taboos.
Mhm.
Okay, that's worse than incest. That's worse than it's vampire cannibalism, basically.
Mhm.
Okay, so back to yes. So all of those things require rouse check. Now, I want you. A rouse check is a simple 1-die test. You roll. It'll roll 1 die for you when you do a rouse check. If you roll 6 or higher, then you succeed. If you roll 5 or lower, then you fail the rouse. If let's say you're who's rolling. Who's rolling? Naomi. Okay.
I clicked the
You
button.
failed. Now, what happened, Naomi? Tell the group what happened. What were you trying to do? First of all, let's make this a scenario.
I was trying to make myself look normal.
So you were trying to use Blush of Life.
Yes, look.
Okay.
Blush of Life.
So you use Blush of Life, and you succeeded in using Blush of Life. You still use Blush of Life, even though you failed your rouse check. Do you see what happened when you failed?
No,
Look at your hunger dice.
it's the same. I only see one.
Oh, you should see 2. Oh, you've succeeded. That's a success. I'm so sorry. Yeah, you succeeded. So if you succeed, nothing bad happens, basically, and you use your power. If you fail a rouse check, you still do whatever you were trying to do. You still use Blush of Life, or you still use your discipline, or you still use your blood surge. Your hunger dice will go up by 1, meaning your vampire will get hungrier. The more blood dice you have, the more hunger dice you have, rather, the more the beast inside of you is awake. And I will act, not only will I act as all the other vampires in the world and all the humans in the world, I also get to play your beast. Now, that does not mean that I will get to control your character. Unless you're at 5 hunger and you fail a frenzy check, in which case I would control your character. But what that does mean is that the beast is almost like a second personality within you that wants you to do very bad thing. And I get to play that character and talk to your character directly. Okay, so that's that. That's blood checks. Everybody give me a rouse check, please. Thank you. Oh, James failed. James, what happened? Tell everybody what happened.
I failed.
You failed your rouse check, yeah?
Yep. And my hunger went up.
Your hunger went up to 2 dice. Now, if you do a skill check, you'll notice that 2 of your dice are hunger dice and not just 1 like before. So give me a wits plus investigation.
Ooh.
Ooh, nice. Not
Ooh,
nice.
Okay,
Nice for you.
so that's a messy critical.
That is very
That's
messy.
great. That means that your success was due to your hunger dice. So that means that you succeeded, and in fact you succeeded quite well, but it has with a mixed result. There's a complication in there. So it depends on the circumstance and the context. Yes.
In this case, the complication would always be related to our hunger, regardless, right? And not, situational of the environment or whatever.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
In this case, we would always act out something. Is that correct? It's always come from us, the messy critical.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, or it could be environmental.
It
It's just all it means is that it means that it's a success with mixed results. What the mixture is kind of up to me, kind of up to the situation, kind of up to the context.
Oh, okay. I thought it would always have to be related to our hunger itself, like.
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't have to relate to your hunger. If you're trying to hotwire a car on a messy
Get
critical,
obsessed with the car.
No, that's not it. A messy critical does in no way involve your compulsion. You're thinking of a bestial failure. A bestial failure involves your compulsion. A messy critical just means you succeed, but something goes wrong at the same time. So if you were trying to hotwire a car, I would say you succeed and the car starts, but the damage is such that there's no way you can hide it. So anyone who sees it will know that the car has been hotwired. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Yes, you're confusing. Don't worry about it. You're conflating messy criticals with bestial failures, but you'll get used to it once we start playing. Frenzy. Okay, so in certain situations, what frenzy is a state where the bestial side of the vampire takes complete control. This could be being like, so at hunger 5, you're at risk of frenzy. If you are publicly humiliated by other vampires and they're all laughing at you, that's a risk of frenzy. If you are confronted or in danger of confronting fire or sunlight, that's a risk of frenzy. Frenzy takes 3 distinct forms. There is rage frenzy. So if you're in a social situation, let's say you're at a vampire soiree which does happen, and a vampire humiliates you, and everyone in attendance starts laughing at your character, you're at risk of frenzy. You might become so enraged that the beast takes over, and that would be raid. That would be an example of raid. In which case, you would attack with abandon the source of your humiliation in an attempt to basically tear them to pieces. Frenzy, by the way, is, even though it's something that all vampires have to contend with, actually going into frenzy is considered gauche. It's considered a loss of, it's considered like a lack of discipline and a loss of control. And if other vampires see you frenzy and they're not your friends, they're likely to think less of you because of it. Starvation is the second form of frenzy. If you're at 5 hunger and you're talking to a juicy human, even if it's a human that you love, your best friend, your best human friend, but you're just so hungry, and all you can hear their heartbeat, and you can see the pulse in their neck beating as they're talking, and you're not even listening to them. They sound like one of the parents from Charlie Brown, and all you can think about is the sweet blood coursing through their veins. That's a frenzy check. And if you fail, then you will attack and kill whatever poor human you are talking to and drain them dry. And your hunger will go to 0. And then you will have to dispose of a body and also deal with the shame of the person you just murdered. Oh, we lost somebody. Who do we lose?
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost the bot. Never mind. The third kind of frenzy is panic. So as I went over, not much can kill a vampire. Vampires are pretty resilient. However, fire and sunlight will kill a vampire in a hurry. So if you're for some reason up past dawn and you walk past a window where the sun is shining in, that's a frenzy check. And that is the particular type of frenzy called panic. If you fail, you basically lose control of your character, and the only thing your character can do is get as far away from the source of sunlight or fire as possible. That's why I said you're not going to be jumping into any burning buildings to rescue children. You're not Spider-Man. If you can control your fear and your frenzy and go into that burning building and save a kid or save a person, then that's legendary. That's amazing. That's incredible willpower and self-control. But better to not risk it. Makes sense? Does frenzy make sense to everyone?
Makes sense.
Yeah. It'll be good to see it in action, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's actually quite simple. It's actually quite simple. For panic, right? I'm never going to have you roll for a panic frenzy check unless you'll know it's coming, because the building you're in will be on fire, or a human with a flamethrower will be chasing after you, or you're up past dawn and you're in a place where there's sunlight getting in. You'll know that okay, a frenzy check is coming up because of the source of fire or sunlight. For starvation, you'll know because you'll be at 5 hunger. Oh, I'm going to remove that hunger die for you, James. You guys are all going to
Don't
start
forget about mine.
at 1 hunger. Thank you, Victoria.
Go ahead.
Are
they the frenzy and checks, are they all related to our blood potency?
No. Your blood
What?
potency has nothing to do with your being able to resist frenzy. Can anyone guess what will allow you to resist frenzy?
Willpower.
There is an attribute that will allow you to resist frenzy. It's not willpower.
Resolve.
Composure.
Nope. No. These are all excellent guesses, but nope. You're not thinking like a vampire.
Strength.
Franks?
I think I lean towards stamina.
No. Do you have a guess, Dred?
Drive.
Drive? The ability
Drive?
to drive a car?
Oh no. Nope.
What? What?
Yes.
Yes,
That's
that's
The
it.
driveway.
I double vote.
Automatic.
Yes, please.
The answer is
Best answer of the night.
the answer is your humanity.
Oh,
Ah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The higher your humanity, the more self-control you will have.
Oh, okay. I failed, but
You
yes,
failed,
I
but you
understood.
did notice how many dice you rolled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did I roll 6 if I have 7? Don't I have 7 humanity, or did I count wrong? No, I do have
I
7.
think you had 7.
Remorse check.
How are you guys doing this? What?
He didn't roll a frenzy check. He rolled
I did-
his humanity. There's
I
a
did
little
my humanity.
yeah, there's a little die next to your humanity. If you mouse over it, it'll actually say remorse check. That's what that is.
Okay.
I was
All right,
feeling bad about the drive comment.
The last why were you feeling bad about it?
Just showing remorse. That's all.
Oh, I see. Okay, the last mechanical thing of this is the last thing of the night, and then I will open up the floor to questions and discussion. I know you guys are used to Dungeons and Dragons, where every combat encounter is carefully curated and balanced by me. That's not how it is in Vampire the Masquerade. Encounters, first of all, I can't really the nature of the game is somewhat fluid. It's not like a D&D game where it's essentially a dungeon crawl where there's, travel and exploration and then there's a combat encounter and I can count on the combat encounter being here. That's not how I construct this game. The only thing I can do is set up a situation and set up certain scenes, right? Also, we should talk about the units of time in Vampire the Masquerade, but I'll get into that in 1 second. I'm just making a note for myself because I didn't write it down. But it's very difficult for me, and more so in this game, it's going to be very difficult for me to predict when you guys are going to get into a fight and when you're not. But also, it's the nature of the game is not balanced. The game is not set up for balanced encounters. It's simply not the way the game is. So if you guys get into a fight with a bunch of street thugs, even if they have guns and I'm talking about humans, like let's say like 3 gangbangers, even if they have guns, you guys are going to wipe the floor with them so easily, it will be pathetic, right? It'll be like, it would be like 3 superheroes beating up 3 petty criminals. That's really what
We need to play that game.
If you guys go up against, let's say, 2 vampires of sort of equal power, then that might be kind of challenging. That would be what we would call a balanced combat encounter. If you guys get into a fight with a vampire who's either much older than you or maybe not much older than you and is just much more powerful, because even young vampires can get very, very powerful, as you guys will see when you level up. A vampire who's really powerful someone could die depending on what that vampire can do. So you guys are going to have to get used to the fact that combats are not going to be balanced, and you guys are going to have to be able to discern whether to stand and fight or whether to GTF up, right? Even a human with a flamethrower or a human with incendiary rounds in a pistol is a deadly danger to you, right?
Makes sense.
So you guys are that's one of the reasons why like etiquette is very important, because if you walk up to a vampire, if you see a vampire on the street, the vampire might look like he's 20 years old, right? But he could be 1,000 years old. And if you walk up and go, "Hey, hey, buddy, what's your story? What are you doing here? The vampire might get pissed that you're up in his grill. So you have to watch your P's and Q's,
Interesting.
Etiquette is mandatory, These are dangerous streets you walk. All right, time. Let's talk a little bit about time. So time in this game is basically measured in, so there's like strict time and then fluid time. Fluid time is a week goes by. What do you guys do in that week? It's like sort of off the clock time. In the game, there are turns, right? And everybody takes a turn. These are things that you should be used to in D&D. And then there are scenes. All right. A scene is what we would call an encounter in D&D. It can be fluid because you guys could be RPing through a scene, or it could be in rounds if you guys get into a fight. But that's a scene. And then there are nights. A night is from when you wake up after the sun goes down to when you go to sleep and then the sun comes up. That's a night. The reason we have nights as a unit of measure in this game is because a lot of powers and abilities last a night. Some powers and abilities last a scene, There are, I don't think, only like powers that are like instant, quote unquote. In other words, it goes off and then that's it, last a turn. Most powers don't last a turn. They either last a scene or a night. So, for example, if you use Potence, I don't know if any of you have Potence. Potence lasts a scene. Blush of Life, which is what Alini did earlier to make herself look more human, that lasts the whole night. So once you do Blush of Life, you're good for the night. Yeah? Does that make sense? All right, now I will open up the floor to question or discussion if you guys want to discuss something. We have 25 minutes left in the night.
Okay, I do have a question. How do we know? In that example, you said like if we saw someone that is a vampire, we have to, have like an etiquette or a procedure to talk to him and whatever. How do we know someone is a vampire? Can you smell it?
You don't. Okay, so that's an excellent question, but I want to go back to something you said. You don't have to. It's just a very, very, very good idea if you're polite.
Okay.
You know?
Naomi will be a polite.
It
either
might
way.
not be your style though. You might be a bruja, in which case walking up and being a dick is kind of what they're all about.
I hope we don't have a bruja, right?
You in fact do have a bruja.
I know.
But, okay, so you said, what was your question? Oh,
Can
how
we
do you
smell
tell
it?
if some?
Yeah.
How can you be sure someone is a vampire?
Yes.
There is a power called Auspex.
I think I have it.
Yeah, but what level do you have?
1.
I don't think you have the power.
Just have heightened senses.
Yeah, no, heightened senses won't. Well, all right. So with heightened senses, if you listened, I would probably do like, if you activated heightened senses, and then I would have you do a wits plus awareness check. And if you were successful, I would say you don't hear a heartbeat, or you do hear a heartbeat. Does that make sense? And I would make the difficulty based on how far away you were from the person.
Mm-hmm. And how
Okay.
do we do a power aspects with awareness roll? Do I just have to do the modifier just like you said? I have like level 1, for example.
Okay. So I'm not sure which. You could be asking me. There are a couple things you could be asking, and I don't know which of those things you're asking. Let's get rid of this because you don't have any. You haven't used any willpower. Okay. So what were you asking me?
If I was to do the role that you asked me for, to actually see if I perceive a heartbeat.
So all right, I'll walk you through it. So you see a person walking,
Yes.
and they're 50 meters away, 50 meters away, and they look very, very pale, and they could be a vampire. And you want to use heightened senses to see if you can hear the person's heartbeat. So the first thing I would ask you to do is to make a rouse check. Is heightened senses is a level
free.
1 power, right? Yeah, so it's free. So there's no rouse check. So you just use it. Boom, you have heightened senses. The second thing I would say is, do you want to get closer to this person? Or do you just want to try to discern at 50 meters?
50 meters is too far from me. I'll get closer.
Okay, you get closer. How close are you going to get to this guy?
I'll walk conspicuously. Is that the word? Yeah, I'll walk until I'm 10 meters away.
Okay, you're going to try to get 10 meters to this guy, but you don't want to attract attention, right?
No.
Okay, give me a manipulation plus subterfuge roll.
Yeah, and I do have a specialized skill of innocence. I'm trying to feign innocence.
Okay, I think that's great. So give yourself a +1.
Okay.
Do you remember how to do that?
Subterfuge? Yes. I don't think that's good. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Okay, you failed. So as you're walking towards him, he turns towards you and says, "Hey baby, what are you doing out tonight?"
Nothing. What are you doing? And I'd like to activate awe. If he's a human, he's going to respond.
Well, right now, let's stick to what you're trying to do, which is determine whether or not he's a human.
All right. Let's do this.
Okay, so let's say you were trying to get within 10 meters, but let's say you got within 20 meters. Okay, so now give me a wits plus awareness roll.
Wits, awareness roll.
There's too much noise. There's too much noise from the city.
dice.
There's a lot of noise from traffic and cars honking, and you can hear TVs playing in apartments near you, and you just can't. you can't filter it all out to focus on this guy's heartbeat. So you still have no idea whether or not this guy is a vampire. There is, by the way, a level 2 an Auspex power that would let you tell if someone is a vampire just by looking at them. To
Mhm.
answer your question.
Do any of us have it?
I don't believe so.
Maybe only Andrew, I think, have aspects, right? Me and Andrew, I
Yeah.
think we do.
Hold on. Am I thinking of the wrong thing? I need to. Okay. Anyway, no, none of you guys have it. Sorry.
It's okay, but I think I got it. There is
Oh.
like a way. If I succeeded, like in whatever difficulty that you assigned, I could, with my level, know if he, like his
Well, I
heart
would
were
have
beating.
told
Whatever.
you hear his heart beating, or you don't hear a
I
heartbeat.
don't, which
Right.
doesn't mean much. Like in this case, you'd say I don't hear a heartbeat.
Well, if someone without a heartbeat is walking around and saying, "Hey, baby," and you assume that that person is a vampire, that's probably right.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of things that are going to be wandering around without heartbeats that aren't vampires.
But if I fail, you would say the same, right?
Well, you did fail, and what did
Yeah.
I say?
That I didn't.
You did fail, and I said you couldn't determine because of the noise.
There was too much noise.
Right.
I have a question.
Terrible
What year is this game taking place in?
Well, we're going to be starting in 2020. It's December of 2023.
Okay. I don't know why. For some reason, I kept thinking we were in the 1920s.
What day of December?
Probably between Christmas and New Year.
So after my birthday.
Oh yeah. Yep, it would be right after your birthday. Yeah, are there any more questions?
And I have a question about my haven.
What about it?
Well, I'm basically going to be running an occult bookstore type deal.
Sure.
So after reading it a couple times, I kind of figured like it's one of those dealy bobs where it's going to be like the storefront on the first floor and then like a crappy apartment above it.
Sure. Yeah. That makes
Okay.
sense. Was that your question?
Kind of, sort of, and then
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I envisioned too.
okay.
And it wouldn't really be a crappy apartment either.
Yeah,
I mean
because it's
it would be
middle class.
a pretty spacious apartment,
Okay. Oh, good.
right?
'Cause
You have like a laboratory and all kinds of crazy stuff in your apartment, so it would have to be
Yeah.
fairly large.
well, in that case, then let me plop this and see what people think.
I think I'm the one that has like a
Sure.
more or less
Yeah,
crappy
sure.
apartment.
Why not? Why not? Although the only problem with that picture, Andrea,
Yeah,
is that there is no building in Los Angeles that looks like that.
I know, but I specifically put in Gothic architecture because, like I said, for some reason I thought we were supposed to be in the 1920s for
Nope.
this.
No, you're in
So-
2023 in Los Angeles.
All right, so I may actually go back to some of my other ones.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Maybe there's a bigger building like on top of it, and this is just a facade.
Andrea,
Yeah.
in your capacity as the proprietor of this occult bookstore, what is the name of your occult bookstore, by the way?
You would ask me that, god damn you.
Well, you don't have to have an answer right now.
I know. I'll come up with something.
Well, think about it and come up with something. But in your capacity as the owner proprietor of this occult bookstore, not one, not two, but 3 other vampires have visited your store.
Okay.
2 of them are semi-regulars, and the
Okay.
third only came in once and did not seem so. If you want, I can run through who these people were, and you can take
Okay.
notes even.
Okay.
The first is a woman who appears. Remember, they're vampires, so a woman who appears to be in her 30s, maybe early to mid 30s, with very long, wavy black hair. Caucasian. She's a Caucasian woman. She's always wearing a blue dress when you see her. She introduced herself as Astrid. She did not give a last name.
As what was the name?
Astrid. Astrid. Astrid.
Gotcha.
She's a little weird. She speaks in a very soft, sort of sing-songy voice. It's a little off-putting. But she will come in every few months and just pick up like supplies, things that you would describe as arcane supplies, like chalk and incense and things like that.
Gotcha.
She's friendly, but she's not like overly familiar, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And she, hold on, she actually, let me just grab this and I'll just go like that. Did that work?
Yep.
That is her.
Okay.
Okay. The second is also a semi-regular. Although she does come in maybe a little less frequently than Astrid does, is in appearance, young, like maybe early 20s, late teens even perhaps, Asian woman. And she told you her name is Jing Wei. She is you would guess that she's probably a young, like as in newly created vampire, perhaps even younger than you. Because she not only looks like a teenager, she kind of acts like one too. But she was very, very impressed and enthusiastic about your bookstore, and also extremely friendly. Perhaps a little too friendly. But again, she comes in probably less frequently than Astra does, but she does turn up every once in a while. And she'll buy a book or supplies or something like that.
Okay.
And the third has only came in once, but he was fairly memorable. This is what he looked like.
What the hell is Howard Stern doing in my bookstore?
And he was not friendly at all. He hardly spoke, seemed to be very, very unimpressed with your bookstore. He did inquire about one book, a very, very rare arcane book, of which you did not have any copies for sale. You actually do have a copy of this particular book in your personal library, but you were not about to sell that. When you didn't have a book for sale and you didn't have a way to acquire a copy, he left, and you never got his name.
Okay.
All
I
right.
swear to God, he looks like Howard Stern from Private Parts.
Not really.
Well,
So,
yeah.
not really. So if nobody has anything else for
I
the next, yes, go ahead.
One last question. Since you said we have a lot of other vampires around us, do we have a census of how many vampires there are, like in our domain?
In your domain,
Yeah.
within your domain,
It's
there
only
are
us.
none. Yes.
Okay.
There's just you. There's just the three of you. There's Derek, there's Naomi, and there's Victoria.
Oh, 3. All right. Yes.
If there are other vampires in your domain, that's a problem for you and for you to solve.
Mhm.
As far as how many vampires there are in the greater Los Angeles area, how many vampires there are in Southern California, you have no idea. Perhaps you could find out after we start playing.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
I feel pretty good about it.
Excellent. All right, then I think we will break here and we will meet. Is everyone available next week?
Yes.
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 Double checking, but I believe that is not going to be an issue.
Excellent. And next week we will actually begin. There's no more character creation, no more rules explaining, no more of any of that. We can actually play next week.
I did have one question from earlier that I just remembered.
Okay.
We were talking about ages and generations. Do we know what the oldest quote unquote living vampire is, or what generation they may
No.
be, or
No.
any info like that?
Nope.
Even suspected?
Nope.
Okay.
You suspect that Isaac Abrams, your Mala, is probably 10th or 9th generation, maybe.
Okay.
Although you might be wrong about that, but no, you have no idea.
Okay.
That's one of the great questions that everybody asks and nobody really knows.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
This is going to be interesting.
It'll be fun. And not really game related, but for some reason I cannot get Andrea's avatar to show up at all. For it's something to do with Discord. I don't know what it is though.
Well, you'll sort it out next week. Don't worry about it.
It looks pretty good, by the way, Dred. Awesome.
Very good. One without the Gothic architecture.
I just used a dumpster fire.
She used a dumpster fire. Yes, you did just have fire. Awesome. Good deal.
All right, guys.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
You guys
Good
as
night,
well.
everybody.
Thanks.
Okay, night.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Patrick.
Janji. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Good day, everybody. Bye bye.
Night.